I'm going to ask you questions today about something that I find fascinating. Different body types. The endomorph, ectomorph thing. Tell me about it.
Pseudoscience, rooted in the eugenics movement from the first half of the 20th century. And we all know where that ended up, don't we?
For those who don't know, what is the endomorph, exomorph idea?
Exomorph.
Is that not it?
Ectomorph.
Ecto
Exomorph sounds like a transformer. Exomorph.
or some kind of
No, so you've got endomorph,
insect
mesomorph,
human.
and ectomorph. Worryingly, this was the first thing I learned about on my personal training course, and
Okay.
it was taught as scientific fact, which should just give you some insight into the quality of education that personal trainers get, which is why the qualification itself is pretty meaningless. But so it's all to do with certain body shapes and how they respond to exercise. So your ectomorph is your tall, skinny man. Long digits, long limbs, very thin in the torso. And then you have your endomorph, who is your stereotypical fat man, up to including a sloping ape-like forehead. If you actually look at the original writings,
Excellent.
so you can you really see where this is,
Yeah.
highly likely, to be criminal because of low intelligence and things. And then in the middle, you've got the mesomorph, which is essentially an Ubermensch. You know, basically picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's a mesomorph.
Okay.
And basically, you are one of those three body types according to the theory of somatotypes, and that should inform how you train. And it's, as I say, it's a nonsense. It really is. You can group people into categories like that. I suppose you could say, well, tall, thin people exist, therefore ectomorphs exist, but that's about it in terms of actually how it basically it's incredibly reductive to the point that it's very very unhelpful. I'm not being you've ambushed me with something quite technical, I'm afraid, Jess. So I'm not going to be able to go into too much detail, but suffice it to say, it's a pseudoscience that's been thoroughly debunked.
But would I be right in saying there is some value in understanding body composition? Like, as an example, you squat differently because of your back and leg
Well,
ratio.
yeah, but that's got nothing to do with it. That's got nothing to do with somatotype. So, you can have a long-limbed person. So you've got someone with very long legs, right?
Yeah.
They can be fat or thin. Generally they tend to be thinner, but they can be fat or thin. Asians have very, very short femurs, right?
Hmm.
And they're often very small and thin. That Mr. World that we've been watching that YouTube keeps serving me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very, very compact, aren't they? And small and slight.
Yeah.
They have very short femurs and they make excellent squatters. They can squat straight up and down.
Yeah.
Whereas a person with longer limbs, um, they will have a harder time squatting with in a biomechanically efficient manner. It's not that they can't do it, but they'll most likely need to use a more powerlifting style low bar squat because of they'll need to sit back a lot further. They won't be able to sit straight up and down unless they're freakishly mobile. So there is value in understanding your personal body type and how you move. There's a huge amount of value in that, but you can do that without recourse to eugenics-based nonsense, I would suggest.
And as a PT working with a client,
Hmm.
would I be right in saying it's more about trial and error and finding out the right
I wouldn't say trial and
movement?
error. No, I can assess someone pretty accurately, and like with you, for example, when we got you squatting,
Yeah.
I was very, very quick to establish the fact that you actually have a moderately lengthed femur. But you're a woman, so you have wider hips, and it's much more suited to a wider stance squat. When you squat with a wider stance, it's harder to sit straight down, so we need to have you low bar sitting back.
Hmm.
You sit back quite far, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's not really trial and error. It's trial and error and tweaking within a form that you can assess as being pretty well required for someone.
Yeah.
A good example of trial and error might be where there was a time when I was squatting low bar. Do you remember?
Hmm.
And trying to lift monstrous weights low bar with belts and wraps and stuff because I don't even know why I was doing it. Oh, there was those powerlifters at the gym, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to be cool like them. They were like proper powerlifters though. Like there was a guy, he was a Masters gold medalist, powerlifter, world Masters gold medalist, and he was in his 50s, and
Was that in Bournemouth
it
with
was
the
in
Russian guy as
yeah,
well?
yeah.
Yeah.
He was squatting like 220, 230, and I wanted to be like him. Um, he was very lean as well, wasn't he? But very impressive. But so yeah, so I was going down that rabbit hole, and obviously being someone with freakishly short legs, like I look like a normal human when I'm sat down, but when I stand up, it's like, well, where's the height gone? I do squat straight up and down with a narrow stance. That's my natural squatting form, and I can keep a nice straight bar path. It's actually now I can actually lift more weight that way than the other way, but sort of side note. But anyway, I started to get a really bad impingement in my I got really bad impingement in my hip from the wide stance squatting that I was doing,
Mm.
to the point that I actually couldn't like wide stance squat at all.
Yeah.
So I went back to my narrow stance squat, which was my natural squatting form, and but that even that because my hip was still too sore for me to do. So what I had to do is I had to play with it, and I found that I actually had to do feet together. I was actually barbell back squatting with my feet touching each other,
Mm.
and I was able to do that without it
High
triggering off
bar.
my hips. Yeah, high. Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
have to do high bar that way.
Yeah.
And I was able to go straight up and down, my feet together, almost like a it's not, but it's obviously not a sissy squat because I wasn't on my toes at any
Mm.
point, but it felt like sissy squats feel, um, and that worked. That little trial and error allowed me to continue training the squat movement pattern with a much lighter weight until the hip sorted itself out, and then I've not obviously gone back to doing the stupid powerlifting style squat because it's not right for me.
Are there other exercises that would be similarly effective, like deadlift, based on like back and leg ratio?
Yeah, the deadlift, like again, so people with longer femurs tend to be better deadlifters because they can. I'm probably going to be wrong here, so not that anyone listens to this, but feel free to send me an angry email. But I think the longer leg allows it puts the hips back more, so there's more leverage to pull to get more leverage off the floor.
Hmm.
It's been my experience that I struggle to move the bar off the floor. It's also been the experience of guys that I've trained back when we had the gym. We had the group of lads that we trained, and one of them had the short legs, and he had a really hard time budging the bar off the floor. And others that I've trained over the years, the shorter femored people tend to struggle with getting the bar off the floor, whereas the taller, lankier types tend to be much stronger deadlifters. It could also have a lot to do with arm length too. So obviously, if you've got really long arms, the bar doesn't have to move as far, does it?
No.
So, but there's a brilliant video of a guy. I think he's got the best. I think it's the best dead. I think he's got 4 times body weight deadlift. I can't remember his name. He's a black guy, American,
Mm.
from like the 80s, I think. And he's got the best body weight to deadlift ratio of all time. It's like over 4 times body weight, I think. Again, I'm pulling from the darkest depths of my memory today, and he has arms that are like totally out of proportion with his legs. Like when he relaxes his arms, they hang to like
His knees.
slightly below his knees. It's really quite
So
disturbing
he
to look
really
at.
only has to,
And he's barely budging. And he does a
yeah,
sumo stance. He barely budges the bar.
it's just got to clear the floor.
Indeed,
Yeah.
and that's really cool to see. But again, these are people who are genetic outliers, aren't they?
Yeah.
But we can look at genetic outliers and we can apply. It's because it's the extreme, isn't it? And then you can look at where you sit on that spectrum,
Yeah.
can't you? So,
So does a person's fat distribution um, impact on how they should train?
what
Um,
do you mean fat distribution?
I guess, like, I read lots of magazines. I think it's more from dressing rather than a training point of view, but like a pear shape where you carry a lot of weight around your hips.
Oh, this is all that woman shit, isn't it?
Yeah, does that
I don't know.
impact?
I don't care. No, if it's fat, it doesn't contract, and you need to get rid of it. Like fat. Paul Carter, Lift Run Bang chap. The website's not been updated since I think like 2018, but I know that he's active on Instagram. He wrote once that fat doesn't contract. It was because all the powerlifters were coping about being wanting to be super heavyweights and stuff, and there's fat. It's like no, fat doesn't contract. There's another guy I used to read about the same time called Jamie Lewis. Be careful if you go on any of his websites; they're quite disturbing at times. Lots of gore and profanity and awful stuff like that. Anyway, he good fitness content though. He talked a lot about with powerlifting, like you want to get down weight classes. You want to get down to a lower weight class and get the fat off you because there's just no value in carrying body fat. So people are like, oh, I'm an apple or I'm a pear, and it does sound a lot like cope to me because the Daily Mail and stuff say that some like isn't it healthier to be a pear than an apple or something?
Something about fat around the organs,
Yeah, and they
and
say,
then
oh well, I'm a pear, so it's not that bad. There's also the classic female cope of I've got really muscly legs.
Yeah.
And like, where's the delineation, sweetheart? No, no, the pot marks from the cellulites, not delineation. Like if you genuinely had truly thick muscular thighs that were
Mm.
not fatty at all, you would see, as you see on my legs, separation, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you don't. You just see a big chunky mess. And the reason it feels like muscle is because there's so much fat compacted under the skin. It feels firm.
It's gone hard.
It's gone hard. It feels firm. So they think it's muscle. It's not. It's fat.
No. And then, but then you do get the enlarged calves of fat women because they were carrying themselves around. Like I've
Oh,
still got.
I've seen bikini models that used to be fat, like the bikini athletes,
Yeah.
and they've got these giant ugly calves. It's horrible.
Well, I'm now like a size 10, 12, and
Yeah.
I struggle with normal boots
Mm.
because of it's a scar
Yeah,
of being
yeah, you're being fat.
overweight, isn't it?
But no, I think with the fat thing, like if you happen to ask the question of how should I train for my fat distribution? What about if you're asking yourself all these questions,
Better.
you just need to like be less fat. It's like when I say to you, Jess, am I getting fat? What's the
Yeah.
answer to that question? Yes.
Yes.
If you're psychologically normal, so you don't have some sort of mental health problem, and
Mm.
you're looking up all this stuff about body fat, it's your brain telling you to put down the fucking fork and
Yeah.
maybe do some damn cardio.
So why then do people get fat to get stronger?
So this is an interesting one. And this is where I'm going to now sound like a complete hypocrite. I actually think that young lads probably let themselves get fat to get stronger because you get a lot of guys, less so nowadays because they're all soy boys, but certainly when I started training, lots of very thin guys who had abs, the bean poles,
Yeah.
and they start lifting weights and they were fucking terrified of losing even the slightest amount of definition on their abs. And there's all this idea of like clean bulking and stuff. And then they were wondering why they've been training for 5 years and they're still bench pressing 60 kilos for a set of six.
Mm.
Like it's you've got to when you're a younger person, you need to eat a lot of food. And if you don't take lots of drugs, you don't take your steroids and your clenbuterols and all the other things, then you're going to get fat through that process. I mean, you look at the bodybuilders of the silver era, for example, when they weren't in competition, just day-to-day pictures. There's no abdominal definition there at all, but they're monstrously big. And then they would lean out a little bit for the competition to have the nice soft abs and the separation with the shoulders and the arms and the legs and all that other stuff. So yeah, like there is a lot because ultimately to build muscle and strength requires a surplus of energy, doesn't it?
Mm.
And that obviously will result in you gaining fat. Now, the thing is you can take things too far, and a lot of the rhetoric that's come out of particularly the 1990s with the mass monster era of bodybuilding,
Mm.
um, this whole idea of just pounding down food. There's a picture of Lee Priest, who's a famous bodybuilder, um, like very very overweight, like just looks like a fat guy with giant arms and shoulders. It's like basically like sweating his way through a plate of fried like KFC. And
Mm.
it's a huge monstrous plate. People see that, particularly if you're prone to fatness like me, and you
Yeah.
see that and you think, I need to do that. I mean, I was eating pizzas covered in olive oil at university, Jess.
Really? Tell
Like,
me.
because that was something I read Dave Tate
Yeah.
wrote about. If you say you can't gain weight, eat pizza with olive. I've never had any problems gaining weight,
No.
but I wanted to be big and strong. And to be fair, yeah, I got fat while I was at uni. I lost a lot of weight before I went, and then I put on a lot of weight. I went from like 100 over 100 kilo, 105 to 110 kilo, down to 75, and then through uni I was back up at 95 again
Mm.
after a couple of years at uni, and I wasn't lean, but I'm really glad I did it
You
because
built a
I've
foundation.
this I'm still riding on it today.
Yeah.
I'm still riding on the foundation I built in those years. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think if for an older person, which to be fair, with most of the people who listen to me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing that.
No.
Like that ship has sailed. You need different tactics and strategies, and we're talking a lot about food. Why are we talking about diet?
We're talking about
Okay,
fat distribution.
this is fair. Okay, fine. Yeah, no, there's different strategies required, and actually, you might need to accept that. Actually, no, you're not going to be. Yeah, if you want to be like really, really muscular, and you've not achieved that, or even like significantly above average muscular, and you've not achieved that by the time you're 25, I don't actually think it's going to happen for you unless you take drugs. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to happen. That's not to say you can't look amazing, like better than 95% of people, 98% of people. You just won't be. You won't have that thick kind of bodybuilder look. You know what I'm talking
Mm.
about here, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I don't think that's going to happen for you.
No. Is there anything else, any other exercises that are particularly influenced by your personal body mechanics?
Yeah,
I
all
mean,
of them. Literally all of them. This is such a broad and deep topic that I would need to prepare for it to actually discuss it properly because I'll just make a fool out of myself by chatting shit. But yeah, no, it's everything. It affects everything, because ultimately, lifting weights is essentially a system of levers, isn't it?
Mm.
And you're better at maths than me. You understand levers and fulcrums and loads and things, and obviously limb length and stuff being a key component of that, but also stuff like the width of your pelvis. All of these things impact every lift that you do to a greater or lesser extent.
And it's that proprioception, is that the right word?
Proprioception, sense of body and space.
Yeah, that
That's
I
something slightly different, but carry on.
when I first started training, I was trying to copy your movements and I was very unconfident.
Mm,
And it was only when I actually started
mm,
feeling and experiencing the lifts for myself and
mm.
actually thinking about, does this
Yeah.
movement feel right?
The biggest takeaway I can give to most people with this is to stop thinking about moving the bar and thinking about moving your body around the bar.
Okay.
There's two ways of lifting. So for your big compound movements, so squats, presses, and pulls, you need to think about moving the body around the bar. Okay, so you want the bar moving in a nice straight line. So with the overhead press, it needs to be in a straight line from the shoulders to overhead.
Yeah.
And to facilitate that, you obviously have to move your body around the bar because if you took a straight line from your clavicles to over your head, you would take out your
A
teeth,
pin in your nose.
knock out
Yeah.
your teeth, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I've not knocked out a tooth, but I've smacked the bar into my jaw on more than one occasion. It
Mm.
hurts. Don't do that. You need to move the head out of the way. So you're moving your body around the bar.
Yeah.
And then you need to get the head back underneath the bar as soon as it's passed over the head. So you're moving
Mm.
around the bar. Same with the deadlift. The bar is coming up. It needs to remain over the middle of the foot. And to facilitate that, the body needs to move around the bar slightly. Yeah.
Mm.
For a clean's probably the most dramatic example of this. Cleans and snatches.
Yeah.
You're physically accelerating the bar to such a degree that it floats, and then you get underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the bar remains moving in a straight line. Where people go wrong with things like cleans is they try and pull the bar to their shoulders.
Yeah.
I don't do snatches, so I'm not going to talk about them. Too much of a retard for that. But with clean, certainly, you pull the bar up and then you need to get underneath it. So hang on, I'm not finished. But then there's so that's moving body around the bar. But for your isolation movements where you wanted to build the muscle, yeah, you want to think about um, taking the muscle through a full range of motion. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so and that's slightly different because with a barbell curl, you're not moving the body around the bar, are you?
No.
No, but you're wanting to take the muscle through its fullest range of motion.
Mm.
Very, very slightly different, in a way that optimally recruits the muscle that you're looking for. So, for example, with a barbell curl, you want to keep the elbow slightly back behind the torso. You don't want the shoulders coming forwards. Sorry, the elbow coming forwards because that's shoulder flexion, isn't it? So then
Yeah.
that's the anterior deltoid moving the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can use all sorts of implements and things to assist with that. So it's why if this sort of works, why I'm very fond of machines
Mm.
specifically. So or contraptions like T-bar rows because it allows you to lock off parts of the body that you don't want to move, so that you're only moving parts of the
You're
body that you
recruiting the
do
muscles you're trying to
want to
train.
move. Yeah, if you do it properly. If you're a retard and you start like monkey fucking the bar when you're doing rows or whatever, then obviously that's not gonna, no amount of putting. I've seen people go on a T-bar row and they're still like jerking themselves back and
Mm.
things. When actually, what you want to do is you actually want to relax into that pad, then firm up,
Yeah.
and then allow the lat to go to its fullest extent. And when you do it that way, you will be shocked at how little weight you can actually move, but how much of a stimulus you actually get.
Mm. So isolation movements, contraptions good. Your
Mm.
big lifts.
Big lifts, move body around the bar.
What
Um,
about the Smith machine for creating
Smith machine. I
that
don't like.
straight bar
There's.
bar path?
I don't like Smith machines. I think they have application, and I'm not saying nobody should use a Smith machine.
Mm.
I personally don't get on with
I
them
was going to say,
because
I don't think I've seen you use
no. So I
one.
because I'm because of my because of the way that I'm able to, or my desire to take the muscle through a full range of motion, um, and move my body around the bar.
Mm.
So both the isolation and the compound sort of thing. Smith machine doesn't really allow me to do either of things the way I wanted to. I've used Smith machines before when I've not had access to a hack squat. There is a way if you lean back into the bar and then you put your feet really far forwards, you can get a fairly deep knee flexion, which is kind of like a hack squat. It's not great.
Mm.
It's not necessary. It's not particularly safe either. What else have I used them for? I've used them for the one thing I do use them for. but you've not seen me use it because I don't really do unilateral work. Is like single-legged squats, like rear foot elevated split squats and
Yeah,
stuff.
because it
Like
stops you falling
that
side to
stability,
side.
I quite like that. Yeah. Again, making sure that I always make sure to have a very, very stable setup because we don't want to be falling over and stuff. But yeah, I use it for that. But I don't like it for presses. I've used it for. Oh, actually, no, I tell a lie. I've used it for those Gironda guillotine presses.
Into the neck
Yeah, but now I use a free bar with that.
because you've got the strength.
No, because I just prefer the. I don't like I don't like the artificially straight bar path. It hurts
Mm,
my shoulder.
yeah.
Whereas when I do it with the barbell, even though I've got a slightly dicky left shoulder because I was an idiot over the summer, I don't have any shoulder pain when I do quite a wide grip, quite an extreme range of motion bench press. Whereas I
Mm.
do on a Smith machine.
And I might be way off the mark here, but I'm guessing with a free bar,
Hmm.
you've got to stabilize, and so there's a benefit for all round.
So I'm a bit wary about this. This is one of those internet forum dogmas about
Mm,
like the stabilizer muscles don't get worked properly on machines. Well, I'm sorry, but some you got big old bodybuilders who do pretty much only machine work, and people say, "Oh, their stabilizers are weak." They're not.
mm-mm.
They're not weak. No, they don't get the tiny little insignificant muscles in terms of how appearance and things don't get worked. No, but they still get recruited. And you know you're still building muscle and you're still building strength. It's just you know it's not the most efficient and effective way to go about it, and it's also using machines with heavy weights potentially quite injurious as well because you're forced into um, what may be for you an unnatural range of motion.
Yeah.
That's the issue more
Mm.
so than this crap about you're gonna you'll have weak stabilizers and stuff. I don't buy that at all.
Cool.
Good, is that enough?
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
interesting. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, if you're still with us at 22 minutes, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I believe we have 12 subscribers now, Jess. We had one added like a month ago.
Excellent.
This is exponential growth here. Yeah, you know how to do that. But better than doing either of those things would be to subscribe to my daily email newsletter. I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker, aren't I, Jess?
Yes.
So yeah, I've been told they're informative, entertaining, and useful, and you do that by going to the URL that's on the screen, which is philtimon.co.uk, and then clicking the big green subscribe to newsletter button, and then I'm sure you can figure out the rest. And if you can't, you're too thick to be on my list. So on that note, I will speak to you next time.